Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Rao. I found some time before my next meeting at 12:30, so I have a good 1 hour to go. So I thought I will come and chat with you about something I did yesterday. I wrote an article. It's on LinkedIn. It's about my world of awareness versus my previous world of thought. How I used to be swirling with all the thoughts, like everybody else, right? And then this was in 1985, I think. Yeah, 1985, when I was really introduced to what Ending of Thought by Jiddu Krishnamurti. Even though he was from India and he kind of a world citizen, I was not aware of him at the time in India. Up until I was 27, I was in India. Then I came here, right? So I came to know about him, his thought, his works, and all that. Uh, Something remarkable happened. You see, I was not even his physical presence, but I was just listening to his talks on the video, and also I was reading his books, right? And something I discovered was I was completely uh, quiet and silent. And then that silence accompanied me from morning till evening. So I thought this was something really important. Uh, so I was not as tired as used to be, and I discovered ending of thought as described by Krishnamurti, right? The result was I was in kind of silent thought with awareness of what is going on around me and what I'm doing with it, right? So this is not something like I took a drug or like anything. It's more like the thought by itself became very silent, just because the descriptions are very clear and the questions are very challenging. And as I immersed in those readings and all that, the result was I ended up in a silent thought with awareness. That means I'm alert and awake. I'm not sleepy, but I'm more into the present, right? Then I thought that was significant. Then I went into deeper ancient wisdom and found out uh, about Advaita Vedanta, and especially Ramana Maharshi's teachings of uh, being in awareness all the time. So he was drawing to attention who we really are. His question was, who am I? What am I? Am I just the shape and form of the body? Or am I just a bundle of thoughts and emotions in the mind? Or something deeper than body and mind, which is kind of quite silence, the real inner being. Okay, we can call it different names, but then I kind of call it more like our life force, right? Without which we don't have anything, right? And then landing up in that was the way the ancient wisdom talks about and shows you about. But it's not like a religious or something faith or anything. It's kind of active questioning that appealed to me as a scientific person, as somebody who grew on logical thought and constructive thought. That appealed to me, and I began to question who I am really. That took some time, but then ending up in that inner self and listening to Ramana Maharshi saying, "Your attention has always to be poised on your inner self." That was the sentence made a remarkable difference for me. So, from the world of having continuous thought, swirling thoughts, and unending thoughts and chatter, I ended up in a real peaceful, very energizing silence, right? And that kind of followed me, even though I was doing patient work and I was examining them, I was talking to them, I was making plans for them, and that was very energizing for me to be quite like that, but able to do the work in flow. So I began to investigate, I began to learn more about it, and also you are pulled back into your old patterns very easily. But to be in that peaceful or blissful energy has become a regular regular thing. And then, of course, I had to visit back those teachings and readings and reinforce what I discovered and all that, right? That was very, I thought it was like a blessing itself to be like that, right? I didn't have to take any alcohol, any recreation drugs, or any prescription drugs, anything like that. Of course, you all know about my uh, eagerness about wellness and how I want all my patients to be not just free of the disease, but also to be really in vigorous health. And they are having this enormous energy to do whatever they want to do, right? So that's how I kind of ended up talking about it, investigating about it, and writing about it. Now, yesterday I wrote an article on the awareness world versus thought world. And I described my own experience of how it used to be before I was introduced this ending of thought mechanism, and also really staying with our true awareness, which is our real self, right? That's what they show you in ancient philosophy. One is called Advaita Vedanta. That's the one I kind of went in. They kind of encourage you to question, they encourage you to probe into deeper and deeper and deeper, and until you end up with the truth itself, right? So, human being aware of what's going on, that awareness is aware of all the thoughts, all the emotions, all the physical things and everything, right? This is not something that is bred in the mind or brain, but by itself is consciousness that kind of manifests everything else. Difficult for people to understand, but then the result is this. So now the question is, how come I can convey this to whoever comes to me as a patient or as a colleague, as somebody who is seeking advice? How can I convey this in practical terms, though they can start where they are and then go to whatever they do, right? So I began to write about this, and then I wrote a book also. And the book, I just finished it, so I have to edit it, then I will release it. But the article was released yesterday. Okay, so I couldn't stop myself. After I wrote the article, I began to write the book, and then it has come up to 10 chapters, and I'm going to release that too. I'm very slow releasing my books, even though I create to energy. I just do it. It's not that anything, no grains or anything. It's just I just go with the flow with my awareness and all that. So I thought I will let you read that article. So I put it on LinkedIn, so you can go there, and if you are following my profile, my posts and activities, you should see that LinkedIn newsletter, and you will find it there. It's basically about my journey from grew up with everybody in an urban area, and my friend is coming. Let's see. Christina. Yeah, she knows what I'm talking about. Hi, Christina. How are you? I am great, Christina.
This is my jam. So
Yeah. I know. We both talk the same thing. This awareness world is so peaceful, so energizing, so blissful, Christina. You feel like sharing it so that other people can touch it, not by any magic or anything, but by questioning, investigating by themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that when I saw it, I'm like, it's interesting because they're different, but they're both linked, right? The more we have awareness,
Yeah.
it increases our consciousness, right? So then we can change our thoughts and our beliefs and how we potentially show up, right? But the
Now,
awareness.
a little different.
Okay, tell
Because,
me.
yeah, what it is, you remember René Descartes, our French philosopher, who said,
Yeah.
I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
That is where he kind of, stopped short, they say. He's a good guy. He was trying to give a definition and all that, But much before him, it was like awareness in which thought manifests. So awareness is fundamental and thought is the manifestation of that. So it's kind of you are having thoughts in your awareness rather you are having awareness in your thoughts. See, there's a little difference. That's why what happens is awareness is like an alert, awake orientation to the present and all that, but doesn't have the stream of thought going on its own.
Yes.
That's where the difference was. I was filled with a lot of thoughts, like, now people I see everywhere. And then this bliss of silence that's happened after the ending of thought thing that by J. Krishna. I think you should see that book and then read that book. I think it will make a lot more sense to you. Yeah, it is a kind of, is there an ending of thought? That was my first wonderment. I said, if I end my thought, what is going to be there? That was my second question. And then I was introduced the ancient wisdom where they said everything is Brahman, which is the ultimate consciousness. And in that consciousness, our body, our mind, our brain, they all manifest.
Right.
So going that way, you find we are essentially awareness and then everything else comes. Christina, come back if you want to. So, yeah, this is such a significant thing in the informatician viewpoint. I'm an informatician too. I did a master's in biomedical informatics, where my thesis was on information overload. That was in 2008. I think at the age, and then I did that. I enrolled in 2008, but I finished in 2015 or so. Online, So OHSU, my dean was a pioneer in informatics, Dr. Hirsch, and I just joined for a 10-10 course for 3 months. Then I was invited to go for the graduation program. Then I was invited for the master's program. Anyway, I did that. But what the important thing was, the informatics showing, okay, information is great, we are doing all these things, we have insights, but there is a phenomenon called information overload on the humanity. As it is, we are thinking pretty fast, but then this information overload making people really go neurotic. In the sense, they are thinking too much and doing little. In general, not everybody, in general. So I took on that as a human problem, and then came up to know there's a lot of suffering awaiting for us if we don't know how to use thought in our control. Not forcing it, not controlling, but be aware and use the thought. That was my mantra.
No, it's good. It's good. It's funny. The visual I have right now is like the awareness is like a sea, right? And the thoughts are little boats that float on the sea, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that when you actually keep moving, the part that's really important about the thought, right? So the little boat's moving on this awareness sea, and then it's like, how do I feel about it?
Yeah, it's only the thought that moves. Like you said, the boat
ultimately leads to your behavior, right? If I feel like crap and I don't feel good, I'm probably going to make poor choices.
Yeah.
But if I feel great and I'm elevated and I'm directing that thought and I'm a little more well-versed, then I'm going to have better results.
Yeah. You remember, I always say, watch your thoughts, use them, and then end them. That is the part where we are not doing proper job. Is we use thought for outward things. Like I go to the car, I start the car, I know how to drive, I know the route, and all that is thought-led thing, right? But under the thought, I'm aware, I'm here and now, I'm in the car, I have the weather these days. All those things are really not given description, but just be aware. So what happens to me is I used to spend a lot more energy on so many innumerable thoughts, and they are networking with each other. Come back, Christian. I think we are not done yet. Yeah. So my expenditure of energy has gone down. That was the first thing I felt was when I read Krishnamurti. He had a book called Commentaries on Living. There were 3 volumes. They are compilation of his original talks over a period of 60 years. He went to different countries. He met from emperors to ordinary people, intelligentsia, and everybody, right? And then he put his talks in the book. And I used to take one book. For example, he talked to a psychiatrist, a physician, and he came to him and said, you see, one of my patients was very depressed. She was coming to me for a lot of years. Now she came to your one talk, and she wasn't even talking directly to you. She was one of the 5,000 people out there in that talk. And she was one of them. But suddenly she has dropped all the thought and the depression is gone spontaneously. So I wanted to understand what happened to her, what did you do? And I did not do anything. I didn't even see her, right? He just said that. And how this happened. The same thing happened to me. I was young. I just came to the country. I was really stressed out. I was given a major post over other people, so they gave me a lot of stress. I was really stressed out at the time. That was in 84, I think, 1984. So I was listening to him on a tape in Chicago. It's called Oasis, on the middle of the Lake Michigan. It is there. And people used to go there because these kind of talks were happening, as they call this Oasis. And something happened to me. All my stress dropped. Then I wanted to understand what happened here. I didn't want to take it like a miracle or something. Then what it is he leads you to really think about the thought to the point where it drops and you are ended up in your reality of awareness.
That's good. Can I read something from my book?
Yeah.
Because I write about this too. So
sure.
For everyone that's listening right now, if you have a thought that seems to be putting you on a path that you don't know what exactly is going on. I think that's the awareness piece. It's like, whoa, where is this going, right?
Yeah.
Here it is. You need to pause, catch yourself, and ask, is this real? Do I have proof to support this thought? Or is this an incorrect story I'm telling myself? You will be surprised how often this happens. Try it out today. Yeah. If you get triggered, the first thing you should do is ask yourself, is it true?
Yeah. But what I would say, Christina, who is that asking? Is the thought
or awareness? Ourselves.
Yeah, awareness,
It's awareness that's asking.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not even asking, it is aware. That's all. It is just aware.
Not the ego, it's your inner self. It's the awareness of your true self.
That's it.
Beautiful.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Then you are ended up in your awareness, and you can feel whether that is, fast or slow or negative or positive, whatever it is. Then you can get into the cognitive reframing, or in Sanskrit they call Pratipaksha Bhavana. One of the things that really fascinated me about yoga was about the intricacies of this mind, so-called mind. And they said, there's really no mind, only thoughts.
I can see that.
Yeah, no mind. That is the awareness.
And then on a deeper level, and this is the work that I do, it's really about the integration of the parts, right? When we can integrate all our parts, then we actually align with our whole self.
Yeah. Who is the integrator?
Pardon?
Who is the integrator?
Again, it's the true self, right?
Yeah.
It's
awareness.
The more you bring stuff awareness. The more you bring stuff to consciousness, the more you start pulling in. And you can really see the false narratives that we've told ourselves about who we think we are, right? And when I talk about authenticity, it's interesting because it's so clear because I've gone on my own personal journey with it. You don't realize when you're on this path how much we fragment ourselves. As soon as you tell yourself that you need to be something else in order to be accepted, you have just fragmented yourself.
You used a very good word there, fragmentation. See, we are whole to begin with, but then we fragment into roles, into identifications, into languages, into ego and all that. Once that fragmentation is recognized, then you slip back into the wholeness.
It's beautiful because literally I've had visuals because I do a lot of inner child work with people. Because when you're little, you don't realize that along the way, as soon as you stop using your magic, or as soon as you stop kind of being, you were told somewhere along the way that to stop doing that, that's not what little kids do, or maybe someone hurt you or whatever, you start to fragment. So when I do the work with the inner child, it's helping people to reconnect with that little one in them. And when you connect with that little, that's where you get creativity, innovation, play, all this great stuff, like real magic kicks in.
Let me share with you the way they looked at, ancients looked at this so-called inner child we're talking about. They talked about that is our real reality. They don't say it's a child, but the real reality that is there, that doesn't change no matter what age we are. We can all feel that intuitively, I am that I am.
Yes.
And then this inner child and all that modern terms to describe the same thing. But then when you work with it, there is nothing like a child or adult. There's the same thing all through our life. Right? I hope I clicked on Christina's. Oh, Peter. Okay, I will bring Christina back after you, Peter. Go ahead.
You want to bring her up to finish that thought? That's fine.
No, that's okay. We will discuss a lot. I know Christina. She's into this.
Okay, great. Yeah, she's fantastic. I was enjoying your dialogue with her, and really brought a lot of clarity and confirmation into the things that I've learned. About a decade ago, when I entered into my recovery journey from prescription pain meds, 2 books were placed in my proximity. One was Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And the other was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle or Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle,
Part of the world you're in, And it was through those 2 volumes that I learned to sit still first, and then become the observer of my thoughts, and then not to judge those thoughts, and then eventually into no thought. And
then your observer becomes observed.
Right. And then the way that came to me was through The Power of Now. And one of the exercises was just sit there and ask yourself the question, I wonder what my next thought is going to be. So I did just that. And I waited and nothing came. And then that exercise kind of came and went, but I went back into the silence until my meditation, and I did it again, and I kept doing it. And whatever the definition of bliss is, it is, but I can tell you that if I've ever felt anything that remotely resembles bliss, it is exactly that.
Let me ask you the easier question.
Sure.
What were you using? What kind of tool were you using? Was it intellect or something else?
No, it was beyond intellect.
It
was deeper than that.
What do you use?
In fact, intellect is a tool of that.
Yes, but the intellect is outward. Itself is always outward, right? That's why it cannot really grasp hold of what you are experiencing in the form of silence, awareness, and all that, right? Intuition. Intuition, Peter.
Intuition, right?
You feel it. You feel it. You are not going to describe it. You feel it. and you
Right.
are. And see, for me, I ended up it. I stayed there.
You
And-
ended up and you stayed there.
Stayed there, and then
Yeah.
I'm using my intellect as an instrument.
Yes, it's a tool.
Yeah.
And just like you can do the same thing with your thoughts and emotions,
Yeah.
instead of allow them to
Exact-
use you, you use them. That was part of what Christina was saying.
Yeah.
And she very profoundly put that into motion. I'm
Yeah.
going to lose you, so if I don't.
We continue to talk, Peter.
So, yeah, so what I really enjoyed about what you and Christina were saying, it was like this is the base, the awareness.
Yeah.
And like you guys worked your way, she brought it through into real life, applicable.
Yeah.
And how to get unstuck or move your life to another level,
Mhm.
or to get into to a different level of success.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember when I went into the silence, and I do this even as I walk today. I noticed that when I'm in that state of no thoughts, and just simpleness, my vitals drop.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll notice my aspirations, my breathing, it drops significantly.
Mm.
Almost to my surprise. I don't advise anybody to hold their breath or do anything like that. Just not doing breath work, but I can
No, you are absolutely right. There's a relationship with the breath and the mind. If the mind is very rapid, breath becomes so shallow. But if
Right. And
breath
Right.
becomes deeper, then the slows down the thought. That's exactly what you are saying.
Right. And I'm finding that in that silence or in between those thoughts, in between
Yeah.
the inhale and exhale,
Yeah.
man, I am really breathing the breath of life, like the energy that is. And to me, that's bliss, how I define it.
Have
How
you
I see it.
heard about Kumbhaka, Peter, in yoga?
I have not.
Okay.
So my true yoga journey, Dr. Rao, is still very much in the making, if you will. I just got a book called the Yoga
That's
Sutras by.
I just want to bring something what is connected with the longevity of the yogis. Why this I learned from a yogi who is now currently living 109 years old running. But if you see him, he looks like 50-year-old.
Wow.
But he was born 1919, I think. That's when he was born, something like that. So he was saying Kumbhaka. Kumbhaka means you have the inhalation, that is Puraka, and then holding the breath is the Kumbhaka. And then exhaling the breath is the Rechaka. These are the names for the inhalation, holding the breath, and exhalation. That's all. But what they were saying is, try to do at least a few seconds in the beginning and go up to maybe 1 minute to 2 minutes of holding the breath. You cannot do it in the beginning. You got to start very, very slow. I don't want anybody to risk their life by holding deliberately. It's not the willpower. It's a question of your capacity to hold the breath. What happens is, there was something published about how many breaths a human being has in his entire life. Come back, Peter. I'll have to finish this talk with you. So they said so many thousands of times you breathe, something 54,000, something like calculated there. That was proved too. Each human being has that kind of many breaths there. But if you breathe rapidly, you will expend your breaths much quicker. But if you can practice 3 or 4 times, you are saving all those breaths, and that way their longevity is happening. Okay, so that's their explanation. But what I did was, I experimented holding the breath for a few seconds. I couldn't do more than 5 seconds in the beginning, maybe 10, 15 seconds later on. Then I went up to 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. Now I can hold easily, comfortably 1 minute because of the practice, right?
Right.
That means that 1 minute, suppose I'm breathing 12 to 15, take it 15, then I have saved 15 breaths. Over the day, I may take 60 to 80 breaths. And that adds up to my longevity. That's what they give. But what happens, like you were saying about, between breath and breath, we have that silence.
Yes.
Between word
Yes.
and word, we have that silence. Initially,
That's
that's
the real life. That's
Yeah.
the real life.
exactly. If you can catch that, then you are in the bliss of awareness.
I've been there.
Yeah, I know. That's what you're talking about it. What I'm excited about is that you are there. That's all.
Yeah, and I go there, like, even as you're speaking about it, I'm listening to you, but I'm living in it as you speak it.
Exactly.
And it occurred to me, like, one of the things you said about, like, I think you're talking about, like, the stuff on the internet and just taking all this information in. And what happens to us is, or I'll just keep it on me, I like to do that. What happens to me when I'm doing that is I'm listening to all this information on the internet or as I'm scrolling. And then when I shut it off, then I have all this chatter in my head, and it's not thinking. Like, people think that that's thinking. That is not thinking. Thinking is an expenditure of thought. The only thing you're doing from all that scrolling and all that noise is it's now being echoed or created in your own mind or in your own headspace.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily related to what you've heard or what you just heard, but rather it keeps that energy of chaos.
Yeah.
Because it's not thought.
That's
it's chatter.
That's exactly the current problem at epidemic levels.
Yeah.
That's what I'm addressing here, because I'm saying information overload is leading to people having the remnant of all those thoughts, not able to wash it off even by regular amount, right? So it's kind of happens like that. So I'll bring back Christina, see what she has to say. This is a talk for very few people, really, but then if you can catch the drift what we are talking about. Yeah. Christina.
So I want to follow up with what Peter said. I kind of love the fact that he said The Power of Now. I have that book in my room, in my office. So I'm gonna read something that I think really resonates to what we were saying. And of course, there's no coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences, and I open the page to this. Okay, ready?
Sure. I know that now completely. Anyway, go ahead, read for the other people.
Okay, ready? When consciousness frees itself from its identification with physical and mental forms, it becomes what we may call pure or in a few individuals, and it seems destined to happen soon on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
What we're talking about. That's why we're talking about what we're talking about. Although there's no guarantee that this will happen. People need to make choice to have this happen. All right. Okay, most humans are still their mind. If they do not free themselves from their mind in time, they will be destroyed by it. So it's exactly what Peter was saying, and it's not a fluke that I opened up to this. But I think that people need to understand, I think on a larger scale, when we're talking about being empowered and making change in your life, it's really learning how to identify your thoughts and understand it's an inside game. Your ego is an outside game. It wants to look a certain way. It will do things in order to try and fit in, right? It wants to win at all costs. So when you see this and you're kind of like, we are really meant to shift into higher consciousness, but we have to really understand that we have to let go of what we think that things are supposed to be like.
When we say higher consciousness, people tend to think that they have to grow into something and all that. But ancient wisdom described it like this. There is ultimate consciousness and reflected consciousness, like a sun and the moon. I use this quite often to explain to people what is reflected consciousness, what is ultimate consciousness. That awareness is like a sun that sheds its light on in a reflected consciousness and like a moon, and that is the light with which we want to see, which is our mind. It is not well lighted. When you can remove the moon thing in between, then you have the direct light within you already there. That comes out. There was one sentence I quote from Eckhart Tolle's book. He says somewhere there, regaining the memory of being and abiding in that memory is really the self-realization. So that being, people are lost because they are identifying with our shadows, the ego, the mind, the body.
Yeah.
So we are talking the same thing, but the thing is, ancients looked at this as fundamental reality, and then we are manifesting body and mind from it. That seemed to have more ground with me, because the identifications, all those things really fell out for me very well when I read J. Krishnamurti's exposition of what is truth, and that truth is a pathless land.
Yeah. And absolutely. And when just to piggyback off of what Christina was saying, like there's no random moments, right? Everything is designed by providence.
Yes.
By the all knowing. And like what we fail to realize sometimes, what I have failed to realize in my life is this.
Yeah.
The great fact is life, the universe, God, is more anxious to give you what you want than you are to have it. But in order to access that, we have to be able to go into the silence, into what I call the closet of God, everything we've just been talking about, into that awareness, right? Because it's inside of us. So today is a lot different than even 3 years ago. Yeah. Because today, if I'm scrolling social media, which is sometimes a fact of life if you choose to do that, once I'm off, I'm able to breathe through and breathe my way back in to the silence without striking a pose, without getting into a super meditative state, but just through my breath, I reconnect with that awareness.
No, this this going in and out of awareness versus in awareness all the time and thought coming in and out.
Beautiful.
That's what I'm trying to describe, what is happening with me, and how you can be a scholar, you can be a doctor, you can do other things, but fundamentally you are anchored in that awareness.
Right.
So then doesn't matter, how much we read and all that doesn't matter. Washes off.
Yeah, and I hope you keep talking about this, because like the headline for me is this: like this is not some high level, out there cosmic wackiness.
No.
This is an awareness that that as these words hit your ear, you already know, because the part in each one of us is already there. Our awareness relates to these.
That's it. It is there within all of us as the force, and that is the one you want to get into. Not the other way. I'm playing alternate with Christina and Pete. Sorry about that. But we three have so much to say, So, Christina.
I feel like we should all be sitting in a coffee shop and having a little chat.
Yeah, sure.
We're like passing the feather around.
No, actually, I have a friend circle where I call this self-realization group. And these kind of things happen there.
I totally love it. I think that I love what Peter was saying, because the reality is, this is why we need to have these conversations, is that we live in a world, like I'm raising 2 young kids, and the idea of social media right now, it's all consuming and it's very addictive. And if you don't really know how to ground yourself and get back to your breath, and get back to that place of silence, so you can hear yourself, then you are like, good luck to you, because it actually.
You're muted.
Looking again for that's wow. Sorry.
You are muted.
I'm starting to tell you who you are.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Many people think their shadow is them, their ego, their roles, their associations, and all that. But You got to get back to being the human being that you are. Like you heard about Eckhart Tolle's saying, I said, regaining the memory of being and really embodying in that being is self-realization, realizing who you really are. That happened to him very naturally. One night he thought, are there two selves with me that I want to kill myself, And then the whole thought dropped, and then he was really looked at the world completely different from then onwards. And he was always in the presence.
Well, and I would say this, it is so interesting being on this journey now and how everyone comes at it at different pace, right?
Yeah.
I didn't understand how to be. Now I understand it's necessary to be. But our society does not promote being. Our society promotes doing.
Exactly.
Doing to get results.
Exactly.
Go. If you're sitting down and you're self-reflective, people could question that. People could be like, well, you're being lazy. You're not really ambitious.
They say woo stuff. They really don't understand the OE stuff of Alan Watts, So.
Yeah. And that I find that I actually now I'm very grounded in where I'm at. I find that woo stuff, the negative labeling around well-being and spiritual side of it, and emotional well-being, the way that people have discounted it as something that it's like fluffy, it's not.
No, only thing I kind of look at that is everybody is on their own journey at different stages. You got to allow them to travel that way, but when they is really ready, they will want those things to be open for them, and they can always really look at what can I do to away from this suffering. Even take this simple thing that I'm seeing every day. People are really loaded with a lot of facts, a lot of unnecessary detail that they kind of use their mind like a dustbin, and without knowing they're accumulating all these things, and they are bothering people and they're suffering. And neurosis, anxiety, depression, not able to focus, and I'm very concerned about the kids getting the attention span going down and not relating like human beings, talking to each other. And I talked about it, digital detox, so many times because I'm really concerned about it. And social media can be used properly, but then they are trying to distribute material that are particularly destructive to the kids. Yeah, Christine.
I will say this, and this is why I came back up, is that be mindful. Like, I have young kids. Who's raising your kids? TikTok? If TikTok's raising your kids.
Algorithms.
Right? But think about it, right?
Yeah.
So your kids, including us, we'll go look up if we don't know something, we look it up. But sometimes you have people that are speaking on behalf that don't have any sort of qualifications. They're just kind of doing their thing.
Exactly.
And that can be very confusing, and it could be, I don't know, I feel as though people get, this is another part, people get bite-sized pieces and then they think that they're experts. There's a journey that goes. You gotta go through it. You don't get to do a TikTok for 1 minute and start telling me you're a spiritual advisor or you're a life coach or whatever. There's a piece there, but our kids don't. I wouldn't even say just kids. I don't think people really understand that. So that's why, when you're leaning into people and you're hearing them out and you hear what they have to say, you want to know that they've been there. Like, they've actually
my kids were born on 95, 97, Christina. So what I wanted to instill in them is, even then there was a problem, Then I said, I want you to be self-reliant and questioning, not accepting anything that you read or do that, And that's the biggest influence of Krishnamurti was he doesn't want to follow anybody. Anybody should follow him. He said, think for yourself. Bring in that. Once, like I said to my kids, once I inculcate your questioning of the drug abuse or smoking and all that, then you will know the truth, what is the end result, and you will not be succumbing to any pressure. And they did. They did not take up smoking and drugs, and then they're self-reliant.
But there's a level, this topic gets me fired up, right? Because it's linked to thoughts and stuff. There's a level of loneliness out there.
Oh, yeah.
People are going to social media.
Endemic loneliness.
Yeah, I know this. And then even when I am coaching, there's some younger kids that I've actually coached. I have to teach them. They are so good. They're very bright.
Yeah.
But I have to teach them how to engage with people now.
I have written an article on this loneliness versus aloneness to discover the self, and how we discover our abundance within really helps us not to be lonely, but use that aloneness properly to go inward and find out about themselves. I just wrote that article a few days ago on LinkedIn.
Well, I think everyone should read it then, because I really think that through my practice and what I've seen, this is a real issue.
Yeah.
And there's many people that you wouldn't even see, guys. On the outside, they look like they're super successful. They got it all going on.
Did you catch up with the Surgeon General report, Christina? You must have. He talked about this loneliness being endemic in America.
Yeah. I honestly, I see it in my clients.
Yeah.
And then when you start, that's why this work that we're doing is so important, is that when you learn to be grounded in self, and you know not to get caught up in the whirlwind of the outside world, you can actually be, you can see it a mile away. Like you can actually see it. You're not just immersed in it, like the rabbit hole. You're actually out of it. You're like, whoa, this is an issue. Like we need to make sure we have more leaders out there. And I say leaders as in could be mothers, sisters, brothers, CEOs, whatever. Just people that are standing firm in their truth and understanding that we need connection. We need belonging. We don't need more loneliness behind the screen.
See, one of the services I have is servant leadership for the CEOs of the corporate world, where I kind of allow them to go inward by themselves, just show them, and then discover their own true, authentic self. And landed in that, they go and serve the company because they don't have needs as much as they see the needs of other people.
100%. I see that all the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of senior level leaders, because the system, the way that it was before, well, still is, it's so ego driven, right?
You know, one of the things I observed, Christina, was this turn that we took from inward joy to outward pleasures, where we began to do more consumerism and hurt the earth rather than looking inward and finding the joy for ourselves.
It's a real thing. I agree.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you know how I had Thanksgiving, you guys know that, this weekend, and we're sitting there having a beautiful meal with our family and everything is great. Yeah. And I was just so blessed, like I was full of bliss, like I was full of joy. Yeah. That doesn't cost anything. That was a meal with family. It was just beautiful.
Yeah. When they asked me what are the best things in life that are free, I said your inward self.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's just there's this topic's very important. Yeah. So keep working your magic, and thank you so much for having me on your stage today.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you for coming up and contributing so much. And we kind of feel each other because we are on the same boat, maybe, you know. But everybody maybe to some extent are not maybe in the same boat. Only the priority, sometimes the societal needs and practical needs may overwhelm. That's why I recommend reflect on this, whether I'm aware or am I thoughtful and really full of thoughts. You can see your mind is swirling with thoughts and giving you headaches and giving you insomnia, giving you indigestion and all that. They are reflect of that overwhelming thoughts, and you don't have to be in that. You can be in the silent awareness that is blissful, and then use thought for practical purposes, but learn to end it. One way to do this is when you get up in the morning, don't get on the thought train. Don't open the devices. Don't get on inside your mind on this thought train. If you start one thought, that thought will do to second thought, third thought, like that. The network forms very quickly, and that can be awakened very quickly, electrical speed, right? So that's why when you open your eyes, stay with the what is going on in the moment. Either wind is blowing or rain is happening, snow is falling, or just a bright sunset there. Connect with the nature. And then after you establish yourself in that present moment, carry that like a perfume for the entire day. And through the day, just to focus on whatever you are doing. If you are enjoying something, enjoy that company. If you are having a meal, have meal completely, savor it. If you are talking to somebody, talk completely with them. And then after that is all done, dump it. Don't take so many things from it, just maybe insights that you want to learn and keep it. At the end of the night, though, again, don't open the devices. At least half an hour before, put them to sleep. And also try to reflect on the day happenings and then wash them out of your mind. If you continually do this in the morning, during the day, and at night, you will not have this information overload consequences. They can have so many outside, but you will be controlling what's happening within your mind. Very difficult. It's not that easy, but consistency and reading more about it, understanding more about it, and also seeing people like me and Christina, Peter, enjoying that bliss that we are talking about. That's not our imagine. That's not induced by any medication. That is happening naturally. That is there naturally for everybody to recruit that, get it out, and use that. Then you will be in awareness, but you are using thought consciously and ending consciously. Hopefully that all helpful for you. Anybody else has any other question before I close the room? And that 5 minutes I can be here. So basically, what I wrote an article, you can go and see it in the LinkedIn if you want to. I would recommend people read that because I'm going to read the book also, where the book takes the journey of me. How was I in the first 27 years using thought? Don't have any idea about awareness, don't have any about the inner entity that we have, the being and all that. But then doing versus being was introduced by many sages for a long time, right? And modern times, we took the turn outward. We took the turn outward to get our happiness also with some things and all that, consumerism, commercialism, and all that, right? But ancients, they lived simply outward and very rich inward. We are doing the opposite. We are doing very complex outward living and very simple living inward. That's the reverse we have to do. And that's also part of our plan to save the world, save the planet, because the consumerism, if you can get down to minimal to what we need, and also really work for the evolution or revival of the earth, I think we are better. Our children will be better off. Okay, that's a major theme too. That's why simple living and high, rich inner thinking is important, not only just for our own happiness and peace, but also for the saving of our earth. That I firmly see that, and I kind of do everything I can do for both ways. And hopefully you can grasp it, and then you go and live in that awareness world, escaping the thought world's neurosis. Use the thought, but don't get caught in that continuous swirling of thoughts. Thank you, and I will be seeing you again as I find the time and as I feel good. I have a meeting at 12:50, so not 12:15, 12:30. I will go and arrange for that. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, everybody that came and listened to us. Go and check my article, and if you have any feedback, you can always DM me, and we will talk about that a little bit more. Okay. I think this is an important subject because of the problems of information overload, problems of depression, problems of loneliness, problems of suicide, problems of childhood is getting hampered by so many other minds with their own pathology and with their own propaganda. Okay, so if you want to keep your children thinking for themselves, being independent, self-reliant, not to be influenced by other people, I think we should pay attention to this thought world and really understand it and use it properly. Thank you. Bye bye.